Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I have here with me my friends Jimmy and Diasiss, both of which are activists. Jimmy has just joined us as activist. You may have seen his recent life story on my channel, and Diasiss has been doing this for a while. His story is also on my channel, and I'll put links to those in the video description. But today what we wanted to talk about was the top 10 things that we think wake people up from the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses and the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. We might veer off a little bit, but we'll try to keep it on topic for the most part. These were the things that most affected us whenever we were Jehovah's Witnesses, that caused us to realize it was not the truth. So let's get right into the first one, and it's the biggest one. The Australian Royal Commission and
read my mind.
the problem of CSA, major institutional issue of the Watchtower organization. Believe it or not, for me, that was not one of the first things that affected me. That affected Beth, and if you've seen her channel, Stop the Shunning, it affected her more than anything. But for me, it wasn't the first thing. But when I did find out about that, well, that really was a kick in the pants. But I was already mostly out. So Jimmy, I know it had a big effect on you, though. So talk about that. How did that hit you when you found out about it?
Well, the first thing I saw was the interview done with Jeffrey Jackson. And the information that he was presenting on that stand, I just couldn't believe what he was saying. And when he said that we are not the only organization providing spiritual food, I was like, your answer was totally wrong. You should have said, yes, I do think we are the only organization doing that. So that was an issue there for me. Then the other thing that I started thinking about was, how could Holy Spirit be operating in the organization and allow those things to happen? That was one of the things that I just really couldn't understand, because, you know, just being recently faded, I still believed that everything was right. And the Holy Spirit, you know, I knew it was supposed to operate. But when I found out that there was so much CSA stuff going on, I was like, that can't be right. That's not right.
I'm glad you said that, because one of the things I hear the apologists say the most is, well, all religions have at least this problem to some degree.
Yes.
But I'm like, yes, but you say all those religions are from Satan.
Exactly.
And that you're the truth, and you're the only one with Jehovah's Spirit and all that, so that should not happen in the cleansed organization of God. So that argument might work for other people who don't claim to be the only mouthpiece of God, but it doesn't work if you claim you are. Diasiss, what do you think about that?
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. That is one thing that's interesting, because, okay, witness apologists, they do say that all the time. I know, because I debate with them all the time on the witness groups. And they say, oh, well, you know, they're imperfect men, and we all make mistakes, and all religions are imperfect. Okay, and my answer to that is, well, then why don't we show them the same forgiveness? Why don't we extend to them the same mercy? You know,
that's true.
They want to, yeah.
That's a good point. You never hear a witness saying, "Oh, well, the Catholic Church, all churches have this problem."
Let's extend that to the Catholic Church.
Never, the Watchtower flailed the Catholic. I remember that, because I was very much in when that happened in the late '90s, early 2000s. Boy, they were just eating that up in the Watchtower all the time, talking about, oh, that's because they're Babylon the Great, blah blah blah. Then when they have the same problem, oh, well, all religions suffer from this issue. So yeah, that really bothered me. But I was already out at the time. I was waiting on Beth to be ready to exit. She had a lot of doubts, but she wasn't ready to exit yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But that was it. That was a nail in the coffin for her. When that happened, because Beth is an empath, so she immediately feels other people's pain, and she knew, no way. If they can allow that, no way.
When I wrote my letter of reinstatement, they denied me basically because I had a beard, and they said that I wasn't following the direction of the faithful slave and, you know, Jehovah's organization and all that stuff. So that ended up being a good thing for me because I started looking up videos. And when I started looking up videos, Australian Royal Commission. You know, and as bad as the CSA was, I think the thing that really discouraged me and did it for me with the ARC was how Jeffrey Jackson acquiesced. He did not stand boldly and firmly like he always tells us to do, like the governing body always tells us to do. Stand firm and be bold and proclaim it. Yeah. And the whole script,
No, he really did.
He did.
He really didn't.
And you think about that scripture where it says, you know, that you should give an answer to those who are demanding an explanation for the faith that is within you. He sidestepped every single direct question that was asked.
Oh, yeah.
You will be hailed before kings.
That's right.
That's what it says. And he was hailed before the kings and just totally wussed out on his answers completely.
There were two things that he was asked. Or one thing that I can think of readily, you know, do you think that basically Jehovah is using you guys as a spirit-directed channel? And he said, well, I think it would be very presumptuous to say a thing like that.
That's what I was looking for earlier, where he said that would be presumptuous.
Yeah, would you say you're the only one? That would be presumptuous.
Yeah.
Really? You've been telling us you're the only one for the last 140 years.
For almost 20 years, I had served as a witness, and that was the first aha, wake up, rude awakening moment that I ever had. And that was the first time I was watching the governing body and watching supposed Jehovah's organization, and I was like, that is bullshit. Because all this time, he and the governing body had told us that we need to be bold, and he couldn't be bold. And then he sidestepped the issue of shunning. Oh, well, we don't shun, or his lawyer said we don't shun. You know, they're allowed to have, you know, normal family association as long as it isn't spiritual, and that's a damn lie.
Wasn't this the one that was done in Canada?
Yeah, that came up in Canada also, but their Australian legal representation did say we do not shun. Which is, of course, that's baloney. Anyone who knows anything about witnesses knows, no, you can't have normal family relations with people. And the only way you can have any is if they live in the house with you. That's what it says in the Elder's Handbook, the Shepherd the Flock of God book. So that didn't fly.
And that's what did it for me.
And following up on that, what I found astonishing and appalling was the fact that 1,006 cases were swept under the rug. Not reported.
1,006 people, known people, and who knows how many victims there were.
Exactly. But, I mean, that could have been insane amount.
Covered up.
Insane amount of people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was a big blow for a lot of people, and I hear all the time on the channel like that was it. That was it. That was it for a lot of people.
And
there's other
that's
stuff.
That's where my faith was shattered.
And see, and I know we're talking about
it just took a dive.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about the ARC, but once you start looking into everything and you realize this is a worldwide epidemic.
Yes.
Yep.
And that, I was like, oh my goodness, this is happening in Australia, this is happening in Germany, Canada. Yeah. Canada's got that $66 million civil lawsuit going on right now.
And Montana was bad enough, not only did the court rule that they broke the law because they didn't report, they ruled that it was done with malice, which that's new. That's precedent. And that has never been the decision before. And as I understand it legally, and I'm not an attorney, so I don't know the exact wording, basically that means they knew that this person was in trouble. They knew it. Yeah. And they did it to spite the individual who was hurt. Like on purpose. It was completely on purpose. That's what it means as far as I can understand it. But there's, you know, you can look up more information.
Direction.
Yes, but you're supposed to be the shepherd. You're supposed to be the loving. I saw that picture of the shepherd holding the sheep over the. You remember that one?
Yeah.
Over the shoulders, and that's supposed to represent Jesus and all that. And the other one where he's holding it close. I'm like, how can you claim to be any of those things when you're letting these people get hurt? And you're not reporting it, and then you cover it up.
They're doing a better job protecting the wrongdoers than the victims.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so that was a big one. That was the number one.
And I think the last point on that is the fact that when you talk to someone, when you first wake up and you talk to the ones you could think you can talk to, they'll just say, well, you know, that happens in all organizations.
Right.
They just need to wait on Jehovah. Things will be taken care of in their time. Okay, well, if things are being taken care of in their time, how long do we have to wait or see this wrongdoing go on? And how many more people are going to get hurt while we wait?
Right.
Not to mention, I mean, that's hypocrisy, because they say wait on Jehovah, which basically means, you know, shut up, sweep it under the rug, don't do anything about it. But at the same time, if they are, you know, being blasted, they are the first ones to try to do something about it, to try to take you to court, to try to get something removed off of, you know, social media. So, yeah, it's hypocrisy anyway.
And none of this,
if they saw somebody smoking, they wouldn't say wait on Jehovah.
Yeah.
But something this bad, immediately. But something this bad, oh, we'll just wait on Jehovah. No, we're not going to wait. No, you're going to court. That's all there is to it.
That's it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, so that's obviously the biggest one for a lot of people, not just us, but for a lot of people that's affected. The second one is the United Nations involvement. That's the second one we came up with. Now, and that one hit me hard. So Jimmy, you started.
Yeah, we talked about that in my first video, about Watchtower getting involved with the UN. I mean, and to follow up on the video, we talked about the fact that we were reading the Revelation, or we were studying the Revelation book at the time for our book study.
Yeah.
And so this took place in 1992 when Watchtower decided to become an accredited NGO with the UN, which gave them access to UN library. And if you look up the UN Charter, when someone becomes an accredited NGO, then they have to speak kindly of the UN. They have to promote the UN and what the UN stands for. And when I read all that, I was just like, are you serious?
Yeah.
This is unreal that they're getting in bed with the UN.
And the apologists say, oh, well, they just wanted the library card. But you had to sign your soul over to who you call Satan. And if the document said you have to write nice articles and speak well about Satan to have his library card, would you do that? Well, obviously, no. They would say you shouldn't do that. But they say the United Nations is the image of the wild beast, and in order to get the library card, you have to, what you said, you have to say, we will speak kindly, we will promote the ideals of the United Nations.
They should have just relied on Jehovah and let him provide.
Why couldn't they go up the street? They could have gone up to the street to any other library. The Library of Congress, if I remember, it's not that far away. And even if it is, we'll send someone over there. There's no bigger library than that. So why was the UN's library so important?
And what made it look even worse, you know, because in '92, I didn't know that was going on. Did you know that was going on?
No, not at all.
Okay, we didn't know. So internet wasn't born yet.
Right.
And so in 2001, when the English newspaper, The Guardian, put out the article, that was October 8th or so of 2001. The very next day, Watchtower withdraws its application as an NGO.
That doesn't look suspicious.
How
not guilty at all.
How guilty do you look?
I
mean, they didn't even fight it or nothing. They didn't give a rebuttal back to the article. They just quietly decided to go ahead and withdraw their application.
If they really thought it was okay, why didn't they just come out and say, well, it's just a library card, what's the big deal? No,
why not be public
about it? They slipped away into the dark, which immediately makes everyone think, well, you must be guilty of something.
Exactly.
You know?
Think about your little kid. I mean, if you ask your kid a question, he shrinks down or goes all hiding or whatever, and he did something. He's going to just,
what happened?
What are you up to? That's the first thing the parent thinks. What are you up to? You're being too quiet.
Exactly.
Well,
it just looks bad.
This has been mostly me and Jimmy Diasiss. What do you think about all this stuff?
That was not a subject that really, really got under my skin.
Got you. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
But I know what did get under your skin. So you're going to... Well, I'll let you get the next one. Christ not being the mediator.
That's a big one.
I know that was a huge one for you because you've talked about that.
Christ not being your mediator. is something that the witnesses don't even know about. I mean, you know.
I didn't know.
Yeah. So if any, of you active witnesses are watching this, you're probably thinking, what is he talking about? But if you do the research, you'd be amazed to see in our own publications that Jesus only mediates for the 144,000. So according to official Jehovah's Witness teaching and Watchtower online library literature, he only mediates for the 144,000. And that doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
When I seen that video that you did, I actually went to my library and pulled that book.
Yeah.
And look, I have it right in the other room.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, again, really?
Yeah.
Christ is not our mediator?
Even though Jesus said he died for everyone in the world.
Yeah. Yep.
And how are the...
For God loved the governing body so much. 144,000 so much. No, that's not what it says.
Well, I mean, I think about this, like, this is the part that doesn't make sense. Okay, so Revelation, it says that there's 144,000 out of the tribes of Israel.
Mm.
Okay, so who does the governing body, the uninspired, to quote them, governing body, think that they are? To sit here and assert that the 144,000 is literal, but the 12 tribes mentioned right after are figurative.
Yeah. I did a full video on that. There's so many things about that point, not to get too far off the subject. There's so many things in that chapter that have to be symbolic, but just that one number somehow isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's ridiculous. But to say that Jesus is only the mediator for the 144,000, I think the reason we didn't know that is because they quit saying that just blatantly outright. I think, what year was that book? Was it 70s?
I think it was...
Or was it earlier than that? It may have been 60s.
I can go find out.
Yeah.
I can go get it.
Yeah. Well, I'll look it up and I'll show the reference for everybody.
Learning about that was another blow to my faith.
Oh, yeah.
Boom.
Yep. Yep. And that actually leads into the next point. But the last thing about that is they don't say that outright anymore. You can get to that conclusion by reading all the pieces, but yeah, it's obvious why. Nobody's going to listen to you if you go to their door. Jesus isn't your mediator. You know, what? No,
especially when the Bible says very directly.
Yes, very directly.
He is your mediator.
Yeah. Again, doing something mischievous.
Yeah.
If you have the truth, just speak it.
Yeah.
Jesus was willing to die for speaking the truth that he believed. You know, if you want to be like Jesus, well, just say what you think is right. Why are you so afraid to just speak up and say what you think? If it's the truth, speak the truth. If it's not the truth, quit saying it.
That's right.
Yep.
Don't hide it, you know. And it doesn't work. Okay, so that was actually number 4, but we'll call that number 3. And we'll make this one number 4. Failed dates and historical blunders. That was the big one for me.
Me too.
Yeah.
1914.
Yeah, there's so many. Okay, so let's go through them. There's 1914.
It's actually, you go back before 19, there was like 18.
Yeah.
Jesus was supposed to become ruler in 1878?
Something like that, around that time.
Or he was somehow, I forget, it gets complicated.
Yeah.
But the end was supposed to be here.
The end was supposed to be in 1914.
That's what
and there is printed information saying that.
I've shown that on many videos,
Yes.
the quote that shows that it will be here in 1914.
Yes.
So that failed. Then they switched it. Okay, well, the end begins in 1914. And then Rutherford said, well, it's going to come in 1925, and Abraham and the others, or Isaac, are going to be resurrected, and that's why he built...
This is why they had to come up with the overlapping generation.
Yes, yeah. So you've got that. Beth Sarim gets built for the princes to live in. Yeah, the
that was
prince
crazy.
living in
That was crazy.
Rutherford. That was crazy.
I couldn't even believe that one.
Then the newest one to me, that I had to go back and read the JW Facts article just a couple months ago, reread it, was 1951. Because Watchtower said that a generation was, what was it, 17 years, I think? They tried to say it was 17 years.
Really?
And they wrote that, yeah, they wrote it in 1934. And so if you put the pieces together, what they were saying was the end was going to come in 1951, and the article saying that just happened to come out the year before.
That's on JW Facts?
Yeah, it's on JW Facts.
I've looked that one up.
That's the most complicated one. Go to the generations discussion because I did a video on generations, and there's 6 different interpretations that they've had through the years, and you can actually get to 1951. Like, they never came out right, like with 1914. Not even as strongly implied as 1975, but the implication is very much there for 1951. So we've got 1878, 1914, 1925, 1951, the big one, 1975, that they still deny, but again, it's
how in the world can you deny that right?
They did. The next year they denied.
I know. Critical thinking and just looking at what they wrote in 1967, 68, 69, looking at the information in there, and then they say later on, oh, it was because some of our brothers and sisters let their imaginations. Well, how in the world did they start imagining?
Where did they get that from?
You wrote it.
Yeah.
You put it in print. And then to have people go out at district conventions and say, stay alive till 75.
Yeah. Alive to 75.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't put that seed in our head? Or back then? I was 2 and 75.
Well, I would say the biggest problem with 1914 is this, plain and simple. Jesus said that this generation will by no means pass away until all these things occur. Well, the generation of 1914 was a long time ago, and they're gone.
They're gone.
So there you go right there. It's
that
not
magazine, 1984, the generation that will not pass away.
Yep.
Right? Every single person on that cover is dead.
I don't know about you guys, but when that article came out in the Watchtower, I remember that because I was a kid going back then. And every year when the yearbook came out, y'all know what the first number I looked at was? How many partook.
Right.
And every year,
saw that going down. It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I was getting excited. They're right. They're telling the truth. Armageddon's going to be right around the corner.
Hold on to your butts.
And then I come back into the organization after being inactive for so long, and I saw that number was rising.
Yeah.
It was higher than it was when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that don't make no sense.
Yeah.
Explain that to me. Yeah. And then I found out, oh, there was an overlapping.
And then they just dropped the yearbook altogether. So
yeah, well, and I really, we can't know for sure, but I'm like, really, when your numbers start not looking good, that's when you drop the yearbook.
Yeah.
That's when you quit printing that very detailed growth chart and you only give an overview. Yeah. So lots of failed dates, and that I know that bothered.
Well, the other failed date, 607.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, we talked about that in the first video with you and I. And just, there are quite a few YouTube videos that actually talk about the reigning of kings. And you can look that up in the Bible, and you can look at the number of years that they reigned. And everybody can agree that 539 was the year that Jerusalem, or they got back to Jerusalem. They left Babylonian captivity, got back to Jerusalem. So everybody does agree that 539 is the date. So if you take the reigns of take the reign of the kings back, and what was it? Nebuchadnezzar didn't actually start ruling until where was it? 604 or 5? It was in his 19th year. So
it was his 19th year. Yeah.
So it was actually 606 when he started.
Yeah,
reigning.
they were wrong. They were wrong about the numbers. I actually have a video that goes and shows all of the dates. It uses only Watchtower literature to show when the line started, all the rulership years, and where it ends up, using Watchtower's own documentation. Nothing outside, because anytime you use anything outside, they'll say, well, that's because they're wrong. Okay, fine, I'm only going to use witness publications, and it still comes out to 587.
Nebuchadnezzar wasn't even ruling yet when they say 607, when Jerusalem was destroyed. Yeah. Because it was like a year later, a year or two later.
But then I think even beyond that, I mean, even if all of that was true, let's say all of that's true, and it is 1914, that still failed because that generation died anyway. Yeah. So something ain't right.
Yeah,
something ain't right.
And of course now we've got the overlapping, which is just another way of buying time. You know, they're trying to buy time. And there's no scriptural support for overlapping. And the thing everyone makes fun of is the governing body member, I forget, or was it a helper, tried to get up there with a whiteboard to prove it. Didn't use the Bible to prove it. Was drawing on a whiteboard to try to prove it.
And I think the reason for that is that, you know, if you really study this scripturally, you'll find that a lot of it is connecting dots. You're connecting scriptures that aren't really related to each other.
Exactly.
If Jehovah really wanted all of this to make sense, you would think that he would put it in one verse in the Bible, outline it very clear in black and white.
Yep.
So they're connecting dots that aren't there, trying to interpret things.
Daniel.
That's why they keep messing up.
Say that day for a year rule. It's not in Daniel. They have to get that from somewhere else. And it doesn't say the times, half times, mean 3, half times. They pull that from Revelation. It's not in Daniel. If God wanted you to calculate it that way, why didn't he put all that information in Daniel?
Thank you.
When I first started having some doubts, you know, I said it was like for September 2018. Well, in October, there was a public talk given at the local hall, and it was on how do we know that 1914 is correct? And I was like, okay, this is going to be really interesting. So I went to, so I'm at the meeting, I'm taking all these notes. The reason why is because I'm talking to a friend of mine, telling him about, you know, the organization and that Jehovah's Witnesses, we have the truth. And I've been having many discussions with him. And so the 1914 thing came up one time, and I was like, well, let me get some information. I'll come back to you, and I'll explain it to you. And that's why when this talk came out, I was like, excellent, I got this. So I took all these notes, got my presentation ready to talk to him, and when I went to talk with him, I found myself going, okay, so now we got, remember that's important. We'll go to this scripture. Read that. Now, okay, remember that? Now we got to go to this scripture. It was bouncing around. Yeah. I'm like, how in the world can people understand this?
Yeah. Not the clear truth, you know,
It definitely wasn't 2 plus 2.
No.
There's one more, though. There's one more year. In January 1st, 1989, Watchtower, which they quickly changed by the time the bound volume came out.
Yeah.
It was talking about the ministry work, and it said it would be completed in the 20th century. Now, at first, when I found out about that, I thought they changed it online, because online now it says in our day. They changed it. I thought they changed it online after 2000.
I have the original copy.
And I've seen it.
Where it says in the 20th century.
Yeah. But it turns out that they actually changed it in the bound volume that year. They knew they had messed up quick enough that by the time the bound volume came out, it was different in the volume. So that's another one. So all right, 607, 1878, 1914, 1925, 1951, 1975, and the end of the 20th century. That is 7 failed prophecies. And what does Deuteronomy say about the prophet?
Chapter 18.
Yep. What does it say?
Well, basically it says that if you speak in the name of Jehovah and that does not come true, what is it? You're to be stoned
to death. Yeah.
At the very least,
do not be afraid of such.
Do not be afraid.
Yeah.
So
we're not afraid.
We don't have to live in fear.
No fear.
We're not afraid anymore.
Wait. Yeah. Not 7 times, but up to 70. Maybe we got to forgive them a little while longer.
So I mean, you know, we're not being arrogant by not being afraid.
Yeah.
We are following the scriptures. You know, if anything.
When you cry wolf that many times, people are going to just stop believing. Yep. And you can't blame them for that. So even if they were God's organization, and even if they were the only ones with the truth and all that, the fact that they failed so many times, any kind of God of love would forgive anyone who walked away from that organization.
But see, and one more, we'll make it 8, 1919.
Oh, right.
1919, saying that this organization was cleansed. Okay, it was cleansed, and everything from here on out was going to be the way it was supposed to be done. And yet look how many failed dates, changes in doctrine, which we'll get into that.
Yeah.
All that since 1919.
Yep, that's true. All right, 8.
Anyway.
8 dates.
We probably could come up with a lot more,
8
too.
dates, I'm sure. And I'm sure we'll hear about them in the comments. Someone's going to have something to say.
Yeah.
All right, number 5. Laws that we're expected to follow that are not in the Bible. And Diasiss, give us the first one because you already brought it up, and that is a big one.
No beards.
No beards.
You are not following Jehovah's direction if you have a beard, even though he gave you the ability to grow facial hair.
Yeah. Yep. It's in the Old Testament, and I'll have to look it up and show the reference on the screen. You are not to shave your beard. Like, it's wrong for an Israel. Now, and I know Watchtower says we're not under the Mosaic law, but they also always said that the Mosaic law was God's perfect law given to Israel, and that just because the specific laws we don't have to follow anymore, that you can see in principle how we're supposed to behave off the Old Testament, right? Off the Hebrew Scriptures. Well, if in principle God was right to say that men should not shave, the most you could say is that it's optional.
Right.
Right? Okay, you don't have to shave. I mean, you don't have to keep a beard anymore, but it's not a requirement. But it can't be prohibited if the Old Testament laws show Jehovah's feelings on things.
Exactly.
So that's a big one.
Yeah. Now, do y'all remember what your response was when someone asked you, well, why can't you have a beard? Do you remember what you had to tell them?
I mean, I could think of a few things. Go ahead.
Well, one, I'm talking to some people that, are still in the organization, and they'll say, oh, well, it brings reproach on the organization.
Yep, on Jehovah's name.
Because, if you have a beard, it looks like you have something to hide. Or you're not, I remember when I first got into sales, I remember them actually telling us that those that have beards look like they have something to hide.
Interesting. So that's an actual corporate kind of
That's
thing.
A corporate thing.
Oh, wow.
That's true.
I just thought about that.
I'm glad that came out, because never been in sales.
Got to look like a company guy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Clean shaven, trustworthy. Yeah.
And so they say, that's why all your salesmen are clean cut, basically.
Interesting.
And I do remember them saying that you have something to hide if you're wearing a beard.
What bothered me about the beard thing is that okay, fine, if it comes to absolute bottom line dollars, I get why corporations and state salespeople need to do whatever it takes to sell something.
Right.
But especially today, but even when I was growing up in the organization, like professors, the most educated, eloquent people,
they always had beards.
Always had beards. And nobody looked at that and said, that guy must be an immoral sinner because he's got a beard. So that bothered me.
And the view of the beards today, no one really cares. They don't really care.
No, they don't.
I've gone out to work, and some of my customers, they're like, "Oh, well, Jimmy, that looks good on you.
It looks good.
Yeah,
it looks better than it did before."
Now, this video is basically designed to help those that are waking up. So we need to tell them how the beard policy took place.
Yep. Russell, Charles Taze Russell, had an enormous beard.
Yes.
You see any of his pictures, enormous beard. When Rutherford, Joseph F. Rutherford, Judge Rutherford, took over as the second president of the Watchtower after Russell died. Now, Rutherford was very clean shaven.
Oh, yeah.
He was a judge, so that's what he did. There was a serious fracture in the organization because they were the International Bible students back then. And a lot of people were still very loyal to Russell's teachings, but Rutherford started to make a lot of changes to those teachings, and so people started to leave. At one point, it was 70% of the congregations, and I did a history on that, 70% abandoned Rutherford because they didn't like all the changes he was making to what Russell taught, and they thought Russell was the faithful and discreet slave. So Rutherford wanted to be as separate and distinct from Russell as possible. And that meant anyone who wore a beard, like Russell wore a beard, that they had to go. They either had to shave clean or go. That's the history as I understand it. It was very much the rivalry between Rutherford and Russell.
And it's well documented, and a lot of folks have already heard it. But Rutherford went to Germany on a branch visit. And the branch overseer, I guess that's what he was, he asked Rutherford, hey, I need a new printing press. And they did that. He asked at dinner time. And they said that there was, when the guy asked Rutherford that question, there was a long pause before Rutherford gave an answer. And they said that Rutherford's response was, he looked up and he says, yes, I'll get you that printing press if you shave that thing off. Or take that thing off.
Yeah.
And the next day, the guy came in, he was clean shaven, he got his printing press.
Printing press. Yeah.
Well, there's a point that I was thinking of, you know, during all of this, and even when I wrote my letter. You know, no one has a right to tell you that you are not close to God, or that they are closer to God than you because they are clean shaven. And I think that that's the worst thing about it, is that in the organization you are looked down on as less spiritual the more facial hair that you have. And to me, there's nothing Christian, Jesus-like, or even biblical about that.
Oh, yeah.
So that shows you right there that they are going way beyond what's written, and even making you feel like you're less closer to Jehovah or God or whatever you want to call him because you have facial hair.
Doesn't that sound like something the Pharisees would have done?
Absolutely.
Rutherford went so far,
Absolutely.
it was in the 30s, to put the picture of Jesus in one of the books clean shaven. And tried to make a claim that Jesus didn't have a beard.
But
And that's how bad it got, that rivalry between him and Russell.
But mustaches are okay.
Yeah, somehow that's all right.
Yeah.
Because Russell didn't have a mustache. He had a beard.
I saw Kevin McFree's Dubtown, and then he used the phrase, for the mustache was a beard fraction. I thought that was
a beard fraction.
It's a beard fraction. That plays into another topic, but
Gotta love legalism.
That was funny.
Now, the beards, though, that's only one thing.
Oh, yeah, we won that for a
Watchtower
while.
goes beyond what's written in a lot of ways.
All the time.
And another one that really bothered me was brothers could not wear brightly colored suits. And I remember I lived in Louisiana, and there was a black brother came to give a talk. And it's important that he was African American because he was wearing a really nice, like maroon, dark red suit. And I thought it looked really sharp because it really complemented his skin tone.
Right.
And I told him that. I'm like, man, I love your suit. That's great. And he gave the talk and everything was cool. Well, the next year, he came back and he was wearing like this boring, dark blue navy suit like we had to wear. And I said, hey, man, what happened to the red suit? That looked great. And he looked embarrassed, and he said, "Oh, I got rid of that because I'm an elder now."
And
he was only a ministerial
that?
servant at the time. And back in Louisiana, they sent ministerial servants around to give talks all the time because it was rural. We didn't have that many speakers.
Well, no, I want to add to that. When I was in Tennessee, when I used to live in Tennessee, that's where I first really started studying. There was a brother that moved from California. And he was from Southern California, so he dressed a lot more colorful than the Tennessean brothers, which were a lot more conservative. Well, he was a ministerial servant. They told him that he needed to tone it down. And sure enough, right after that, he had to wear plainer looking suits. And again, I mean, just... What is Christian about that?
Fall in line with the corporate image, please.
Yes.
Now, here's my biggest problem. I actually wrote to the Watchtower about this. This was right before I started to exit, that really started to bug me. I wrote to them and I said, look, Jehovah created rainbows. He created flowers. He created birds, all these brightly colored animals.
You know what?
Good point. Good point.
And on top of that, I said in the letter, we get magazines with the brothers from Africa all the time, and their garb is super brightly colored. Yeah. I said, why is
And they look great.
If Jehovah made all this stuff...
I never thought about that.
And the African brothers can wear all these colors, how is it a scriptural thing to tell people they can't wear brightly colored clothes? Just because they're a man.
And if we're judging people over that and things like beards, things that small, then, you know, there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
You know, that's not Christian.
Bugs me. I mean, at the very least, you should let people wear green because God obviously loves green. It's all over the planet. And blue, like bright blue, like sky blue.
Yeah.
Because that's the majority of colors on the planet. You know, but no. Because like you said, it's corporate image. It's not about spirituality.
It has nothing to do with
spirituality. No, it doesn't.
No.
It's image.
So
and
we've got
other things.
So we've got two. We got the beards, the collar suits,
tattoos. Now they sort of kind of allow that now. It's a conscious matter.
Yes.
It was in a 2001
As
way.
it should be.
But see, yes, it's a matter of conscience. But they talk bad about it, and they're going to look down on you if you got a tattoo.
But yeah, they're going to look down on you, but
no judicial action.
Yeah, no judicial action.
Yeah, that's the point. No judicial.
No judicial. And then one of the comments that was on the video that you and I did, they were saying, "Oh, what? No, tattoos aren't allowed."
Yeah.
No, you're just not going to be called in front of the judicial committee for it.
If you go and get a big tattoo that's visible,
maybe a face tattoo, that might.
So, it doesn't matter. No judicial action, but you're never going to be appointed. You're not going to be a pioneer. You're not going to be, because somehow you're less spiritual. Because
you'll be marked.
And that's the thing with beards too. You know, we could go into the Kingdom Hall like this, but you won't be running mics. You won't be doing anything.
They used to try to claim that tattoos, the reason why they didn't allow that is because it's in the Mosaic Law that people who practice ritual cutting in worship to their false gods or whatever, it's in the Mosaic Law. Don't do that.
Yeah,
right.
But wait a minute. Okay, first of all, tattoo has nothing to do with worship. Okay, if they get a tattoo of a cross or something that Watchtower thinks is pagan or something, or the devil, okay, fine, I get it. That's a worship statement. But if it's a flower or a butterfly, or even just a cool looking design, because my brother had a really awesome looking tattoo that was just this really interesting geometric design. That's not a statement of worship at all. No. And B, it's not ritual cutting. They would cut bloodletting to bleed on everything. Nobody just lets their stuff bleed. They, put medicine on it and pat it down, and they wrap it up and let it heal for the imagery. It has nothing to do with what the Mosaic Law is even talking about, unless it's an image of worship, like a symbolic religious image. But it almost never is. At least it wouldn't be for anyone who wanted to be a witness.
Do anyone of y'all have tattoos?
No.
No, you don't.
I don't have one. No tattoos and no piercings.
You know why I don't have a tattoo?
I'm a square.
I don't have a tattoo because if I got a tattoo, I heard this comedian, he said, I have a problem with these women who get the tattoo of the butterfly on the lower back. He says, because 30 years from now, that thing's going to look like a pterodactyl. And that's what I worry about, like the droopage over time. But I got nothing against them. My oldest daughter has tattoos. My brother has tattoos. That doesn't mean anything to me.
Cool deal.
But you do.
Yeah, I got two.
Yeah, see. Now maybe I should.
Hey man, whatever floats your boat.
I'm thinking about a third one.
Maybe we should come up with one that's like the apostate tattoo.
There you go.
We could all get the apostate tattoo.
The Holy Goat.
The Holy Goat! That's an inside thing.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
All right, so we got that, and there are other ways that they go beyond what's written. So many ways.
There's so many more examples.
Chaperon requirements is one. Yeah. Having to go out and service on specific days at specific times. Dress code, other dress code requirements.
All the rules that are put on someone if they want to have a get-together at their house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They discourage alcohol at large parties. You shouldn't be writing rules about anything like this because you're going beyond what's written. Just let people use their own Bible-trained conscience to figure out what they should do. So there's a lot. Here's another one. Falsehoods in statements made by the governing body. Now was that your idea?
I think it might have been one of our other guys.
That's going to have to be like a whole other video.
Yeah. Well, we've already touched on one. Jeffrey Jackson talking about
that's true.
Being presumptuous. Yeah. And then there was, in the Canadian court, there was one guy that was talking about the shunning.
Yep.
And the definition that he was giving for shunning does not match up with what everybody in the rank and file knows.
Not at all.
He said you could actually keep your family intact. You could keep your association with your family. And there's proof. There's the video. Yeah. The video is out there. He does say this.
Oh yeah, that's public. That's
public information.
Supreme Court of Canada. Yeah.
And so, he said that, and you're sitting there looking at it, and you're like, no, that's not how it goes. Again, you are lying. Not telling the truth on that one. Sorry.
Yeah. And even though that wasn't something the governing body said, their whole idea of spiritual warfare really bothers me. Where they'll lie in court and they'll say it's okay to lie because you're protecting God's organization. And that was a lie. And they would call it, it's not completely a lie because, if your family member still lives in the house, that is a true statement. you do still have normal family relationship with them, but when they move out, you're supposed to cut them off completely. And it's in the Elder's Manual, the Shepherd of the Flock of God book, that even though it says, now if you keep associating with a disfellowship family member, no judicial action will be taken, but you will not be able to serve, you won't be appointed, can't be a pioneer, none of them can't carry the mics, none of those things. But they won't take judicial action, but they refer to keep yourself in God's love book. It says you need to read them this information where it says we have no social or spiritual communication with disfellowship people. So they directly apply that statement to family members once they've left the house. So it's a lie. It's a lie that it's fine to maintain normal.
Plus, that's the culture anyways. Yeah. General culture, just hang around witnesses and you'll see that. And all the active witnesses here, that are watching, we see it.
Yeah, there's a comment that I want to make on it. I think it's like number 8 though on our list about the shunning.
Okay.
So
we'll move over to that.
But one thing I was thinking about that helped me wake up was, of course, crisis of conscience. You're not supposed to even look at that book.
Yeah.
Never read it.
We're going back to you never read it yet?
No, I heard it was a good book.
Oh, it's awesome. You'd love it. Falsehood statements. So it's not so much a falsehood of statement as it is an organizational way of making decisions. I had no clue that when the governing body gets together, they actually vote.
They vote.
They vote.
Yep.
They vote on the new light.
But you can't vote.
Yeah.
That's wrong. Though actually that's a matter of conscience matter now too. They change everything.
Yeah, everything's a conscience. But to know that some of the decisions that Watchtower has made that has actually harmed people falls in the hands of people that voted.
Yep.
And there was one issue.
That's not Jehovah's direction at all.
No.
How is it God? Shouldn't they all have Holy Spirit tell them to agree on the same thing? Why is voting even a thing?
Yeah,
especially if people's lives are involved.
Yeah.
There was one, and you got to read Crisis of Conscience to get the story, but there was one time where they were holding a vote, and it had something to do with the military service.
Right.
What's it called?
Conscription?
That's where they could be or they could do something else.
Yeah, alternative service.
How what?
Alternative service.
Alternative service, yeah, alternative service. So there was a vote on the alternative service. And one of the governing body members voted to, change Watchtower's stance on it and allow it to happen. But then they went to lunch, he had a conversation with a couple of guys, come back, he changed his vote. Which meant it stayed in place.
Right, that's Holy Spirit.
That was in the crisis of conscience. And when I saw that, I was like, well, you don't have to worry about trying to explain new light anymore because that's how they get it.
I mean, if you're going to claim to be like the first century Christians, which is Watchtower says, we are like the first century Christians. When something happened in the first century, it was undeniable because Holy Spirit was involved. They'd speak in tongues. Yep. Paul could raise the dead. This stuff happens in the New Testament to prove that that organization has God's Spirit. And then Paul talks about speaking in agreement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If God's Spirit is involved, there should be no dissenting vote. Either that or you got to kick that guy off the governing body.
Or new light or old light.
Yeah.
And changing of doctrines.
Yeah. It's just,
you wouldn't need any of that.
It never ends. Never. It's just human beings. And then finally they admitted, was it 2013? The governing body is neither inspired nor infallible.
Yes.
Then why do we have to?
They said it.
Once I saw that, they're neither inspired nor infallible. I was like, again.
So why are we following?
Why are we listening to this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do we follow anything that they tell us to do?
All you are is a religious magazine then.
That's it. It's no more than their opinion.
Yeah. It's
and that changes.
Yep.
So, that's hardly something I would
But they're imperfect humans, and there's going to be imperfection in all organizations.
Yeah, but I don't have to listen to any other imperfect
I say, hey, so is the Catholic
opinion.
Church.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
It is. It's nonsense. So that's the governing body. All right. Judiciary mishaps is number 7. And
this was yours.
Yeah, for me, divorce, right? Because I got divorced And I can't go into detail about it, but I had grounds that everybody with any sense in their skull would say, you need to be divorced. But
I heard your story.
But because it didn't fall into Watchtower's extremely narrow allowance for divorce, I could not get remarried without getting disfellowshipped. And that's what happened. And I talk about that in my video about why I left. So I started to think about it rationally. Like, okay, so Jesus said that the only grounds for divorce is adultery. But, okay, let's say that my ex committed genocide and everyone on the planet was wiped out except for me and her and the person I would rather be married to. Are you telling me that a God of love and justice and wisdom is going to say, nah, she didn't cheat on you. You're stuck. It completely fails the logical test. Now, it makes sense if you look at it in a historical context, because Jesus was saying that to a group of men who were divorcing their wives if they burned the breakfast as an excuse to marry younger women. And so I totally get Jesus is like, no, you can't do that. You need to have a serious reason. You can't just kick her to the curb. And especially back then, a woman couldn't get a job. She couldn't have her own place. If she didn't have a man, she was in trouble.
Her property.
So in Jesus' compassion for these women, he lays down this rule to say it's got to be serious. Not to say this is the only rule, because that's ridiculous, but that it needs to be very serious. And folks, it was serious. So that really bothered me. And that was what led me to start to research first on not apostate material, because for a long time, like, no, I can't read anything from apostates. I started reading books by biblical scholars and trying to get the scholarly take on that particular passage. And they all said the same thing, which is what I just explained. That, well, yeah, obviously he wasn't saying that's the only reason. He's just saying it needs to be very serious. And there is a problem with people getting divorced over every little thing. And especially if you have children, it can cause problems. So I get it. They're trying to maintain good, strong family bonds. But I heard a comedian once, it cracked me up, and it's so true. He said, divorce is never a bad thing. Because if you think about it, no happy people ever got divorced. No, I don't remember. I just remember hearing it.
Yeah, I remember hearing that too. That was funny.
Yeah. And it hit me. That's true. I mean, you're telling people who are miserable, and we all saw them. They would sit on the opposite end of the aisle. Even when their kids are grown and gone, they wouldn't hang out with each other. They wouldn't go out in service with. They couldn't stand each other, but they would stay married because Watchtower said if you got divorced, even if you didn't get remarried, you would be looked down on. And if you did get remarried, you'd be disfellowshipped and shunned. It's just nonsense. Those kinds of nonsensical Pharisaical rules and applications of rules. I'm not saying that you want to just let everything be okay if you want to call yourself a Christian. But to try and get that narrow a definition of these kind of rules, it's just irrational.
And another thing, not just mentioning the divorce, but the physical altercations that can take place in a marriage.
Yeah.
And then the one that's being physically accosted has to stay.
Yeah. Is strongly encouraged.
Encouraged,
to stay.
And they're also made to be, you know, like it's their fault.
Yeah.
Well, if you didn't do that, you must not be doing something right. You know, and there are tons of examples of this incident.
You're not serving Jehovah like you should.
Yeah. I actually posted that question to my Twitter followers, and I'm like, if you ever ran into this, you know, tell me what happened. If you don't mind sharing, tell me what. So many women came back and said, yeah, the elders told me it was my fault, and I was doing something to cause this to happen. You know, no, it wasn't him. and they wouldn't do anything to the guy. And I actually talked to a brother who is a psychologist who is very much against the Watchtower stance on this issue. And he said, a lot of psychologists that are witnesses, they've written in over the decades, you need to change this. You're getting people hurt. You need to change it, and they won't change it. And he says he's known more people who actually died because they were told to stay. Wow. Then things turned out well because they chose to stay.
You know, actually, that makes me think of something that I want to say too. You know, there's all these stipulations from Watchtower, but one thing I want to encourage everyone that is watching to do is use your common sense. You know, there are a lot of things that go beyond the things written with Watchtower, and maybe there are some things in Scripture that we don't understand or that seem, you know, very hard to interpret in a way that seems to make sense. So, you know, my advice to everyone that's in a situation like that, use your common sense. Just have common sense. Make wise decisions. So,
definitely.
Yeah.
All right, well, that moves us into number 8, shunning.
Yeah.
Shunning, everybody's favorite situation. Which, and I have a lot of times people make comments on the videos where I mention shunning. They're like, shunning is scriptural. It's in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. Like, well, you have to actually read what's going on. And let's say that you're right. Okay, let's say that Paul did in fact say that this person should be what you would call disfellowshipped and shunned. I got 2 questions for you. One, was Paul in the governing body? Because he wasn't.
No, I don't think
he was. He had to go to Jerusalem when the circumcision issue came up. He had to go to what Watchtower calls the governing body. I'm not going to get into the details that the governing body didn't exist. But what Watchtower calls the governing body, the older men in Jerusalem, Paul had to go to them for a decision. Mm-hmm. Right? So Paul was more like what you would call a missionary or maybe a circuit overseer.
Right.
So he wrote, if a circuit overseer wrote a letter to one congregation to tell them how to handle one specific situation, would it make logical sense, him not being a governing body member or decision maker for the whole church, the whole organization of Christianity in the first century, would it make sense to apply his letter to every other congregation in every other circumstance in the world? Would you do that today? Would witnesses take what a circuit overseer or a missionary writes in a letter to a specific congregation? Because they do. They write letters to specific congregations with advice on how to deal with things. Would you apply that to the whole world, even if it says
good point
what they say it says and it doesn't say what they claim?
Well, even what Paul said in the 1 Corinthians, he came back in 2 Corinthians and said he spoke too harshly.
Yeah. Plus, in 1 Corinthians, what he says is, anyone called a brother who's doing these things, right? Anyone called a brother. Now, if someone decides they do not want to be called a brother, they don't go to the Kingdom Hall anymore, it's not the life that they want to lead, they're no longer a threat to the congregation. This guy was in good standing in the congregation doing this, and that would have been, in Paul's opinion, a bad influence on the rest of the congregation. But if this guy said, you know what, I don't believe what you guys have to say, I'm going to go do what I'm doing away from you, and never came to the congregation again, is he really a threat that needs to be dealt with? No, he's not. So shunning has no application. And plus, he says, Paul says, not disowning everyone in the world because we have to live in it.
I want to add to that too when you're done.
Yeah, I'm done. That's it.
Well, you know, so by scriptural standards, I should be reinstated. I'm not going around fornicating. I'm not indulgent in drunkenness. I'm not really doing anything that's unscriptural. And yet I am still shunned and denied reinstatement because I choose respectfully to not be a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah. Yep.
You change your mind is all. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Yeah. We've changed our mind.
Again, going beyond what is written.
Yeah. And so, I mean, even going back into the 19th, you know, Watchtower didn't start disfellowshipping people until like 1952.
Yeah.
And then there was a Watchtower.
5 years after the Awake said excommunication was pagan.
Yes.
Yeah.
5 years later.
Real inspiration.
Yeah. So 5 years, 1947 or whatever it was, they said, "Oh, the Catholic, this is pagan. This is unscriptural. We shouldn't." Looking bad down on the Catholic Church. 5 years later, they instituted.
Yep. And then all the way up until 1981, people could leave. Like what you're saying, could choose not to be a witness and you could still associate with them. It was only if they were disfellowshipped that they were supposed to be shunned. But in 1981, they changed even that and said anyone who even just leaves.
Well, you know why that was.
Well, yeah, 1975.
Yeah.
People were like, forget this. You guys were totally off base. We're getting out of here.
That was around the years they did the Bethel Purge.
Yeah, that's right, the Bethel Purge. Yeah.
You know, so that's when Franz left. You know, all three of the guys that, you know, were in on the aid to Bible
That's right, yeah. So anyone now,
gone.
they were a threat because if they say they no longer believe, well, they have to be shunned because they're on Fran's side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They kind of pulled a Rutherford move.
Yeah, they really did. They really did.
And they're making it to the point now to where even if you're like an unbaptized publisher or you're not doing everything that you're supposed to, they'll soft shunning. They'll soft shun you.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll be soft shunning.
You're bad association, so we can't have anything to do with you. One thing I want to say about shunning, the whole you can't talk to them nonsense, that comes from 1 John, I believe. And if I'm wrong, I mean, I'll show it on the screen. What it says, if you actually read the context, they're talking about the Antichrist. That passage is saying the Antichrist should not be spoken to. And what it says is, it doesn't say don't speak, it says not saying a greeting to them, which if you read what Bible scholars say that means, what they say is, first of all, it very well could be talking about people inside the congregation. And what it probably means is not allowing them to teach. You don't allow people who are coming and saying Jesus is not the Savior to teach in the congregation, because the Jews obviously didn't believe in Jesus. So anyone who was still hanging on to that old Jewish idea, the Christian congregation was not supposed to let that person speak in the congregation. Well, Watchtower takes it totally out of context, applies it to everybody. Like that's like saying, I can't speak to you because you've been disfellowshipped, but you're like, but I still believe in Jesus. I'm not the Antichrist. I still believe Jesus came to the flesh and the earth and all that. That only applies to the Antichrist. And so anyone who gets disfellowship but still believes in Jesus, you can't apply it to. And according to scholars, you can't even apply it if they don't believe in Jesus anymore unless they're coming to the congregation to try to teach it. And even then, the scholars I read said that that does not mean that you don't treat these people kindly or that you wouldn't help them if they were in need. It just means that you don't want to have, what do they always say, spiritual fellowship with that person. So they have it wrong on every level.
Yeah, I got a comment on that too. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, that reminds me of the video that was at one of the conventions where you literally see the daughter calling the mother, and the mother, who is still an active witness, and the daughter's disfellowship, the mother actually side scrolls the call, doesn't answer.
Right.
Now she could be dying, anything could be happening to her, and yet she's not answering the phone. Now, what, you know, again, what is Christian about that?
No natural affection. It's one of the signs of the times.
2 Timothy 3.
No natural affection.
Yes.
That's it.
I mean, if a kid calls its parents, you know, parents should answer that phone.
Yeah.
You never know what may happen. And see, that's what I was going to make a comment on, is the harmful effects of shunning. We've established, you know, where it came into play and everything, but the harmful effects. There are so many people that where their lives have been ripped from them because of Watchtower policies, and then they don't know what to do with themselves because they're in this whole new world and they don't know how to handle it, and there's so much pressure that people have actually died because of this.
Literally killed themselves.
Yep, they have. It has happened,
you know,
multiple times.
I mean, and I just know from my experience, you know, when that first year when I was out, thank goodness I had a drive in me to keep me going and want to be better financially. I wanted to do good. I didn't have to deal with a lot of the heartache that a lot of other folks go through. Because I mean, if I would have stayed in Waynesboro, I may have experienced it.
Right.
But I left. I got away from it all. And so, but I could see there was many nights in the little beauty salon that I was by myself. You know, there was no internet.
Yeah.
There wasn't, I mean, I had a lot of time to think about things. But so many people, they've died because of this.
Yep.
And they can't see grandkids. Your grandparents can't see grandkids. I love my grandkids. I couldn't imagine not seeing them because of a policy.
Yeah.
There's another point that I was thinking too, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I've been talking to a lot of active witnesses on the forums lately. You know, I'm in a lot of Jehovah's Witness groups on Facebook.
Which I find hilarious, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Diasiss is hanging out at the witness groups.
And I don't always troll them, but sometimes I do.
Sometimes.
Most
Which is also hilarious, but not safe for work.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, you know, most of the time I will pose valid points to them and then they ask me about who I am. And, you know, if I highlight anything about being disfellowshipped or being inactive and respectfully declining to want to be reinstated or saying I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness again and I'm done being that, a lot of those fundamentalist Jehovah's Witnesses will say things like, oh, good, well, you'll die at Armageddon.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They literally hope you will die. There are a lot of active Jehovah's Witnesses out here who literally hope that us disfellowshipped people and apostates and people who deviate, who leave Jehovah's Witnesses and say we don't want to be a part of it anymore, they want us to die. And I want you to think about where does that spirit come from? Where does that kind of attitude come from? Because that doesn't come from Jesus. That doesn't come from the Bible. No. So
Jesus,
my question here is, where does that come from?
Love your neighbor as yourself and love your enemies. Even if I am your enemy, for you to say something like that to me is to completely defy the spirit of what Jesus said in the gospel.
And I like the fact how they like to put a label on it.
And who are they to judge?
Yeah, exactly. Judge not. Matthew 7:1. You know, let's just quote scripture.
You know, those that are shunned, and then they speak out about it, then they're mentally diseased.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I have my own mental issues every now and again, but I don't think I don't think any of us are mentally diseased.
No.
I mean, seriously.
It's slander.
I feel better after being a witness.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel less stress.
Oh, it's so much
honestly.
easier. Life is so much easier outside.
Less
Free
stress.
time, less stress, no filter. You're not always putting on a fake plastic
Big brother's
smile.
not over your head trying to make every
Yeah.
decision about your life.
It's so much better on the outside.
You learn how to make balanced decisions for yourself.
And using logic and reason and thinking ability is Watchtower likes to say, rather than this ridiculous irrational trust in 8 old dudes who have been wrong at least 8 times. At least 8 times. You know, no. That doesn't do anything good for you. And guess what? You have to live with the consequences of those choices, not them. Those 8 old dudes are going to be taking donated money and living it up in New York.
Right.
Well, it's still New York.
Yeah, there's a lot of
in
blood
Warwick
on their hands.
But you are going to have to deal with the fallout of those choices, not them. And they're not going to help you when you get old and or need to retire but can't afford to. They're going to tell you to trust in Jehovah. Not them. They're not going to pay
while
the
they
bills,
sit in their state-of-the-art
That's right.
complex.
That's right. Flying business class all over the world to give talks. You know,
and buying damn good whiskey too.
So since we're on that, since we're talking about buying things,
exactly.
Let's go into number 9 about the Watchtower investments.
Yes, that's a good segue.
You wonder where they're getting so much of this money from. Yeah. You know, one thing that shocked me when I was first waking up and I was going through YouTube, that they invest in cigarette companies. They invest in companies that build things for war.
Yeah.
And this is legit.
Yes. It's on their tax returns.
I want to know more about that, honestly.
It's on the tax
I haven't
returns.
done a lot of research on that.
Now, Philip Morris, they used to have total transparency, unlike governing body. They do not directly invest in these companies. They have hedge funds or index funds that they invest in that currently, as of the last one I saw was 2017, because the 2018 hadn't come out yet, they still invested in Lockheed Martin.
That's one.
In one of the hedge funds, which is military industrial complex, right? They build weapons. It was in one of their funds, and a couple of years prior to that, one of their funds invested in Philip Morris, which is a cigarette company. Now that one no longer invests in Philip Morris, so that fell off. Yeah, right.
That's
now,
very Christian.
The apologists say, "Oh, what's a hedge fund? You can't pick what's in it." But I'm like, wait a minute. Satan's handmaiden of war is in the hedge fund, and you're not checking to see that the investment is not going to people that do these terrible things.
That sounds real spirit directed.
But as a rank and file person, before you go to a party, aren't you supposed to check on everything before you go there?
People were being disfellowshipped. Could I go buy stock in Philip Morris and not get disfellowship for it? But they can. Yeah, just because there's a middleman involved, it's okay.
At the very least, you would be marked.
Yeah,
at the very least, very minimum, marked.
And please remember that everything that we're talking about, there is legal documents out there to prove.
Oh yeah,
that
we're not just making this up.
We're not making this up.
Their tax returns have to be publicly available, and so you can look.
Public record.
It's not apostate material.
SEC requires it. They have to be transparent about who they invest in, because they're a non-profit religious institution. They have to show everybody this is what we invest in, and so all that information is available. You can pull those tax returns for free, and you can look down the list of their investments. It's one of the sheets in the return, and it shows everything in the hedge fund that they invest in, and it's on there. Lockheed Martin's on there.
Do y'all remember the name of the lady that left the money?
I don't, but yeah,
Harriet.
I can't remember it.
Maybe we'll find it and post it.
But it doesn't matter where it came from. It matters that they're willing to accept money that in effect is blood money. Yep. If you're investing in companies, that if you think that smoking cigarettes is satanic, you're investing in it. If you think that the military industrial complex is, part of Satan's world, you're investing in it and you're profiting off of it. Remember what Jesus did when the money changers came into the temple. How is that any different? It's the same thing. You're profiting off of something that you say is wrong.
And I just, and I keep thinking about it. How is that relying on Jehovah?
No, not.
It's not.
It's not. Why do you even need investments if God's always going to take care of you? Well, just ask for donations. You'll get all you need. But they don't, which is why they have to do that. And if you can't pay your bills just by relying on the spirit of your religion and all the members, what does that say about your standing with God? Are you really?
Well, like Russell said when he first started, if we ever have to get to the point where we're asking for money, we might want to close up shop.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember being young, and during the time of Jim Baker and Tammy Faye and all them, those televangelists, and they were, what was it, Oral Roberts.
Oh yeah,
I need $4 million to do this certain thing or whatever. And I remember I remember being out in car service groups where everybody was making fun of those guys for going on TV and asking for money. Well, now we have the governing body going on JW.org and JW Broadcasting, asking for money.
It's overt too,
and telling kids,
even asking kids for money.
Give up your ice cream money.
Your piggy bank money.
Or set up a little jar at your house, and then y'all fill that up during the month, and then at the end of the month, bring it to the Kingdom Hall.
There's more going out than we have coming in. You're begging for money on TV.
That was good.
That's not any different than what the TV evangelists did in the past.
Yeah.
And it's a complete violation of what Russell said, like you talked
about.
Yeah. And to beg that from children.
They're getting desperate.
I've been to a bunch of churches after I left because I wanted to see what it was like, and I was still trying to figure out what I believed and all that. And they would pass a plate, but you know what? I never once saw a child either put any money into it or be asked to put any money into it. It was always directed at the adults who could make the choice.
Yep.
That's right.
And that's how it ought to be. All right, well, we got one more. Number 10, JW's cultural effects while we were children.
Well,
that one must weigh heavy on us.
I hope Jimmy doesn't live in this house. You remember that? Going out in service, hoping that the other kids from school
when you're going out in service
didn't live there?
Yeah.
Because you were so embarrassed by having to do it?
Well, I remember being in school and just being embarrassed at school just to say anything. You know, if I couldn't be in there while they were doing the birthday parties or the Christmas party, well, Jimmy, why you got to go to the library? Well, I got to study and I'm on Jehovah's Witness. And I didn't really want to be boldly saying, hey, I'm a Jehovah's Witness and I don't do none of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because you were looked down upon. You know, it was bad enough I was already, you know, kind of felt ostracized, but having that on top of it, you know, that just, it created an issue.
Yeah. And it would be different if the things that they were telling children to stand up for, A, didn't constantly change, and had some kind of actual scriptural proof or backing or something, you know, like that. Then I could respect standing up for what you believe. I don't think people should just kowtow to anything. But you're dealing with little kids who do not understand any of the reasoning behind these things.
They're just told.
They're just told.
They're told what to believe. You were told you can't celebrate Christmas, you can't do birthdays. And then they try to explain it, and we've all known that when Watchtower tries to explain something, it makes it very difficult to understand.
Yeah. Adults can't understand it.
And I mean,
spaghetti logic.
You're going to meetings as a child, and you're hearing the information, and you do not understand it one bit.
No. There's no Sunday school to break it down
Yep.
into simple terms for children. Nope, you got to sit in the audience listening to these people who half the time are really lousy speakers, and the adults are scratching their head trying to figure it out. No, it's terrible.
and if it's God, why is it so hard to understand?
Yeah, I agree.
And it's also, as far as a fear thing too, because, you know, outside in Christendom, according to Watchtower, everybody was taught about hell. And I've always believed that hell was put in place to make people scared so they'll listen to the church leaders.
Right.
What's the difference with Armageddon?
There's no difference.
And I remember when we were in Japan, my dad was in the military, and we lived in Japan from 85 to 87. I remember one day being on the bus, going to school, and I was like, let's see, it was about 85, so I was about 12. I was like, what if Armageddon hits me right now? My dad's at work. I don't know where he's at. My mom's at home. I'm far away from the house right now. My brother's already at school. How am I going to be protected?
Yeah.
I'm 12, thinking about a fireball coming down in the middle of Japan to hit me on an Air Force base.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that I've talked to, and you guys have talked to, that have talked about the nightmares that they had.
I had nightmares.
Did you have nightmares?
Oh yeah, I had this recurring nightmare from the age of about 10 to about 14 when I finally outgrew it, where it was always exactly the same. I would wake up and I would come into the dream or whatever, and there's people running and screaming, fireballs falling to the earth, and there's angels swooping down and picking people up and saving them, but they're not getting me. And I freak out because I think,
oh, wow,
I'm not going to be saved, I'm not going to be saved, I'm not going to be saved. And at the very, very last second, like, finally the angel comes and grabs me, right?
Wow.
And then I wake up in a cold sweat because I'm a little kid and I'm afraid that that's what's going to happen. So I may not have understood all of the doctrine and all that, but the message that death was coming if you don't do everything they say to do. And who does everything Watchtower says to do, especially as a kid? You have impulses, you do stuff, you know. That's why you have parents.
And your childhood is just taken away from you. I mean, Saturday mornings, you got to be out in field service. You can't watch the cartoon. I so wanted to watch cartoons on Saturday morning, and then we couldn't.
You know what it was for me?
What?
Kung Fu theater.
When
I got sick, I would watch Kung Fu theater, which I wasn't supposed to watch because it was bad. But I wanted to watch Kung Fu theater.
But you just can't have a normal childhood.
No.
You know, no Christmases, no holidays, no nothing.
Yeah.
And the organization doesn't do anything to offset some of those social out or gatherings that you would experience. They don't do anything for the kids.
Even the Jews.
If anything, they discourage you.
The Jews had all those celebrations where Bible says they are to be nothing but joyful. There was food and festivities, and it was fun. It was supposed to be a spiritual thing too. They listened to people speak and expound on the Bible and the Torah and all that. But it was also a very joyous time. Assemblies and conventions are not joyous times. There's no after party. You know, it's not like there's these gatherings or, you know, social functions that are always included around the periphery of the spiritual food. No, it's drudgery.
God forbid you get together and start thinking about stuff and talking about stuff critically.
Yeah. Yeah.
God forbid.
Can't do that. Can't do that.
Keep you busy.
And just going back as a kid too, you're not allowed to make friends outside the organization.
Nope.
And most of my good friends weren't even in the organization. Yeah. They were schoolmates that I became friends with. Mm-hmm. And they were good people. And whenever I asked to have them come over to spend the night or whatever, Mom like, well, no, they're worldly. Mm-hmm. But Mom, there's nothing wrong with them. They're cool.
They're not doing anything bad.
They're not doing anything bad. And again, as a child, your dreams are squashed.
Oh yeah.
You are already, by the time you're 8, 9, 10 years old and already showing an interest in the organization, that's when they start grooming you. Yeah. Oh, now you need to get baptized. Now you need, and then they put you in the hamster wheel.
They used to want to send you to Bethel, but they laid all them off, so they don't do that anymore.
So now they hype up the Pioneer.
Yeah, Pioneer.
You're never good enough.
Yeah.
You got to keep going.
That goalpost keeps getting farther and farther away.
Well, yeah, I mean, going back to the 1975 thing, you know, all those kids back then were told, do not get a higher education because this system's not going to last. And so we have a generation of folks that they don't have a lot of money.
No, they don't.
Because they didn't prepare for their future.
Yeah.
And one thing, when I was getting my taxes done, about the elder, he's in his 70s now, and he's last 3 years talked to me about doing an IRA, individual retirement account. And, you know, with me still being in, I'm like, well, why do I need that? New system's coming.
Right.
Armageddon's going to happen.
Right.
But he said,
right around the corner.
He goes, he's like, Jimmy, I really didn't think that I would have made it in this system this long. I didn't think the system was going to last this long. So you might just want to check on your future with that.
There's a little cognitive dissonance going on there.
Yeah. And so I just found it odd that he said that, you know.
Well, the longer things continue to happen, the more excuses and changes they have to come up with, something's got to give, because people are just going to be like, you can't prove any of this. You can't prove it now, much less 20 years from now.
Yep.
You know, so something's got to give, something's got to change. But the bottom line is that kids are put at a very, very big disadvantage. No higher education, no outside friends, no extracurricular activities. What if you are the best, or would be the absolute best football, baseball player, whatever, in the world? Like you have this like natural, amazing talent. Nope.
Satan's world.
Forget it. Not going to be able to do it.
Give it to Watchtower.
Yep.
What if you what if you're the next Mozart? Nope. Forget it. Can't do that. You can't bring that joy to billions of people who could benefit from it. You can't fulfill your own God-given desire to do this thing that you have been blessed with naturally. You can't fulfill any of that. Now, how are you showing honor to the God that made you and gave you these abilities by completely shutting them down and ignoring them? I mean, how does Watchtower explain that?
I want to add to that too. That's another thing too. So these are your supposed God-given talents. You can't get this time back. If you pioneer and you put these talents that you have on the shelf, like being the next Mozart or being a really great athlete and having an amazing gift, You can't get any of that time back. Once you are done, once you have spent your life pioneering, serving the organization, you don't get that time back. So it's definitely something to think about regarding your future, especially if this is coming from men who, you know, admit by their own accord that they are uninspired. So that's just something to think about. You know, that's something I was thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were stripped of your individual personality.
Yeah.
To fall in line with a corporate organization that
gave you nothing back.
Yeah, nothing.
And think about this. Okay, let's say, oh, well, people can deal without music and sports. All right, well, what if the person's gift was an incredibly logical, scientific mind? What if they could find the cure for cancer? What if they were the guy who discovered, or the woman who discovered, how to cure this terrible disease that hundreds of millions of people could benefit from, and they completely suppressed that to go pioneer? Now, you're telling me that God would say it's more important for that person to talk to like one person every 25 houses who slams the door on them than it would be for them to save or improve the lives of potentially hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of people over time. You're really saying that that's the kind of God you worship? That's the guy? You know, no, it fails the logic test. It fails rational test, especially since all your prophecies 8 times have already failed and haven't happened. Let these people use their God-given talents to make the world a better place now. And if God brings the new system, great. If that happens, wonderful. Do you really think he's going to punish somebody who spends their life trying to help people? I mean, didn't Jesus feed the hungry and heal the sick and keep a money box for the poor? You really think God's going to hold that against these people?
And Watchtower doesn't do any of that stuff.
None of it. None of it.
And that just, you know, we've talked about that before. They don't do any of that. They don't help out the older folks to get them, if they need rides to the meeting, or if someone's totally broken, they got no money for food. They don't do it.
Jesus did that too, you know.
Yeah, yes, he did.
There's just so much, and the thing is everything that we've talked about, it's legit. You can look it up, everything.
Yep, it's all there. There's all there, and just JWFacts alone.com covers most of what we've talked about, and including the tax return thing. But I think it's older, so you really, if you want to see the more recent tax returns, you got to go look that up through the SEC. Yeah, it's all there. It's all there. Well, those are our top 10. So we have ARC, CSA, United Nations, Christ Not Your Mediator, Failed Dates and Historical Blunders, laws that you're expected to follow that aren't in the Bible, falsehoods and statements made by the governing body, judiciary mishaps, namely divorce, and physical violence at home, shunning, Watchtower's investments, and the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses and how it affects kids.
And the thing is, when we were putting this list together, we had more.
Yeah, we did.
We had more than just these 10. So what we have on our list, like I said, is what helped us out. If you've had something else, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, definitely comment.
Let us know in the comments what woke you up.
Well, you guys got anything else to say?
I got one thing.
Yeah, give us your closing comments.
I was totally surprised and humbled after the first video came out. Really wanted to say thank you for everybody that has commented on that. I have talked to quite a few of individuals all over the place. Australia, Jamaica, Philippines, Canada. I even talked to an ex-sister in China. And it just surprises me that so many people are having to go through the same thing we're going through. Having to deal with the fact that Watchtower has lied to us for years. And they make no amends for that. They put us out there on our own, and we have to figure it out from there. So by showing support to your fellow EXJWs, showing support to those, giving them love, showing them friendship, honestly, when I was coming out, that's what I needed. I needed someone to talk to. And Diasiss talked about his letter that he wrote to the governing body about his beard. I reached out to Diasiss. I emailed him. I think I found him on Facebook, sent him a Facebook message. I said, dude, we need to talk. So that's what you need to do. You need to find somebody out there.
Reach out.
Yeah, that you can talk to. Because if you get it off your chest, you'll feel so much better. And you'll realize that you're not in this alone. And other people are dealing with it. Yeah. And we're here to help folks out.
That's right.
So
we've been through it too.
Yeah.
We know how you feel.
We have a group on Facebook. It's called Watchtower. And we would be more than happy if that you need comfort, friendship, support, look us up or reach out to any of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're here to help. You know, Watchtower views us as mentally diseased and that we're mad and we're off our rocker and we're just so horrible people. For those that know us, they know we're not horrible people.
Yeah.
So if you want to believe the lies, if you want to live in that world to where your decisions are made for you, it's an illusion. And we need to wake up. You need to wake up. Again, you can't wake other people up, but just do your best to try to help them out.
You watch this video this long for a reason.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that. And me and Jimmy were talking before the video and talked to you a little bit about this too, John. You know, your video was amazing. I mean, the story behind it and everything, your experience, it was amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah. Me and Jimmy probably would have not been friends.
Yeah, that's true.
And as crazy as that sounds, I want you to think about this for a minute. He had privileges, and he had a letter of acceptance to Bethel. He was a ministerial servant. Now me, for you active Jehovah's Witnesses out there, I was very dogmatic and indoctrinated, but I wasn't very regimented. So I went to the meetings, but I wasn't a ministerial servant. I didn't really comment, and I didn't really want to move up or do anything like that because I didn't honestly feel like it was me. So if me and Jimmy were both Jehovah's Witnesses right now, if we were both active in the congregation and we went to the same hall, and even John here, because John was a ministerial servant at one point, they would probably look down on me because they would say, well, you need to be doing more, well, you should be doing more. And even though they might never come out and blatantly think that they're better than me, the truth is, because of the organization and because of the legalism of it and going beyond the things written and then being very Pharisaic, they would have probably looked down on me. And I in turn would have probably looked down on them and had a lot of hatred for them because I would have seen them as maybe uppity, high and mighty, or arrogant. So having common sense, being humanistic, and just following the basic principles of love has made us friends here today to where he can reach out to me, someone that he probably would have looked down on. And we're friends today because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to think about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I want to add on top of that, before closing this out, that even though we're all out of the organization, we're not exactly the same. We have very significant differences in our viewpoints and our personalities, but we're still friends because now we respect each other's perspectives and we learn from it rather than automatically seeing that as a reason to shun or withdraw association or as a danger. We don't live in an echo chamber anymore. We learn from each other, and that makes us better people, not worse people. And that makes us better friends. It doesn't push us apart, because we have enough respect and esteem for each other that these differences, even when significant, do not cause us to write each other off, because that's what love really is. That's brotherly love. I have physical brothers, and my physical brothers, we're very different than them too, but because they're my brothers, we're still family, we still get along. Well, that's what the phrase brotherly love means. You don't always agree with your family, and you're not always going to agree with your friends, but that shouldn't stop you from still caring about them and seeing them as your friends.
That's a good point.
So we are friends because we're out of the organization. Like Diasiss said, probably would not have been if we were in, and I think that makes us better people.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, guys, for taking some time. Jimmy, thank you for offering your beautiful home and your beautiful view.
Appreciate it.
For this video. As always, if you like this video, don't forget to click like. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell icon, because if you don't hit the bell, you won't get notified when I release new videos. And as always, thanks for watching.